Part 41. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 402. In the small canteen, the dining tables are arranged into a long table. Compared with the simple long table, the long table is filled with a variety of food, whether it is steak, prawns, or sashimi. Especially the food is so delicious, you can tell it is the work of the chef at a glance. These are indeed the chefs from the restaurants in the luxury cruise ships. This, caviar, I heard it's very expensive. It doesn't feel good. This one is still raw, I dipped it into the hot pot. That's sashimi, it's meant to be eaten raw. The little girl sneaked to the table next to the dining table, which was covered with wine and drinks. The little girl didn't look at the juice, but instead reached for a bottle of red wine. It's okay for her to be upright, but her sneaky movements, like looking around after taking 2 steps, made many people stare at her. She reached for a bottle of red wine with an excited smile on her face, but at this moment a hand reached down from the air and held down the bottle of red wine. Kiat, you can't drink. Admiral. Geet was also a witty person, and his mind was as fast as lightning, and he immediately said, "Isn't that grape juice?" Wei Lian knew the little girl's plan. After all, the destroyer Geet had been her ship's wife for a long time. However, when she was rarely happy, she did not criticize her destroyer. She reached out and picked up a large bottle of sour plum juice and poured it into Giat's glass, and then picked up red wine to fill her own glass. You are not allowed to drink juice if you drink juice. If you drink, you will become drunk. Although it is said that ship girls will not get drunk if they want to, but many ship girls actually like the feeling of being dizzy after drinking. Besides, don't drink but drink, unless you need to socialize or have a bottle of wine. Many ship girls like the feeling of being tipsy. After being slightly drunk, I dared to say a lot of things that I usually didn't dare to say, and did a lot of things that I usually didn't dare to do. Wei Lian poured herself a glass of wine, and then she walked to Sugu's side. This battle is beyond imagination. Such a deep-sea aircraft carrier actually appeared. If it weren't for your Akagi and Richelieu, I don't know what would have happened to my ship girl. In short, Admiral Sug, I'll finish it, you can do whatever you want. Wei Lian had heard about this kind of battle from everyone, if it weren't for Richelieu and Akagi. Even if such an enemy can win in the end, it will probably be a miserable victory. Sugu held the juice in his hand, and when others came over to thank him and toast him, even though that was what he should do, holding the juice would not look good, etc. Sugu looked around, and then Guam seemed to notice, and she handed Sugu a glass of wine. Sugu clinked glasses with Wei Lian with wine. When he saw Wei Lian with a sincere face, he said, "I would also like to thank you for taking care of my ship girl, especially for allowing me to take Cu Seeing away. Besides, to have such a by chance, my ship girl has gained a lot of combat experience." The following words are naturally nonsense. Richelieu and Akagi have obviously reached the limit of their training and there is no need to attack again. Anyway, it's good to eat and drink. The food is relatively small, so I'll make do with it. Sugu smiled and said, "Even if you are being modest, you are exaggerating a bit. This dish is not enough. Many dining tables are assembled into one long table, which is filled with food. Take the menu from the cruise restaurant and order from top to bottom. Except for drinks, you can basically find other dishes here." Sugu said, looking around, his eyes finally resting on Akagi. If everyone ate like Akagi, there would probably be less food. As an admiral, sometimes it is easy to encounter embarrassing things. Like today's situation, you have to fight even if you don't want to fight. Sugu said, "It is better to guard the fort. If you encounter a powerful enemy, you can still hide if you can't defeat it. At worst, you can just hide in the fortress. It is much more difficult for a cruise ship to encounter a deep-sea ship girl. If you can't defeat it, you can't escape, which makes people despair. Chinkai raised his glass next to him and said, our garrison has now built 2 fortresses. In the sea area under my jurisdiction, the surrounding villages and towns have asked them to build basements as much as possible, and they will all hide when encountering an enemy situation. The big crisis has been lifted, and the cruise ship is still docked next to the garrison. After all, everyone still needs repairs to avoid encountering the enemy again. In the evening, a banquet was organized in the canteen dedicated to ship girls in the cruise ship to celebrate that no one sank and the big enemy was eliminated. Because of the relationship between Akagi and Richelieu, Sugu was certainly invited. Although there was a lot of soy sauce, there was no reason not to invite Kirishima and her Admiral Chinkai. Even the admiral of the nearby townhouse was invited. Although he was asked to bring all the ship girls over, in the end he only brought a few ship girls to the banquet. Thank you so much this time. These children have been following me for a long time. I can't bear to see them sink. Don't thank me all the time. I'm embarrassed. Besides, I would have made a fortune from just one Cushing. Chinkai didn't know about Cuxin, but Sugu later revealed it. He beat Sugu's chest and said, you damn seal. I heard Cuxin is super cute and energetic. By the way, there are stray ships in the cruise ship mother? It's time for me to show off my talents. Wei Lian really didn't care about such things. She said, Oakland is the only one. She is not my ship girl. Oakland, let me see. Sugu said, her 100 split fist is particularly powerful. Then Chinkai saw the fierce red-haired girl who was making a drinking order with someone. He thought about it and said, let's forget it. There are also those newly boarded ship girls, they also don't have admirals, like Oi. Sugu knew that they originally worked in a company whose boss was the Queen Elizabeth, and they boarded the ship as escorts because they were dispatched. Since he was working in the company, of course there was no admiral. Sugu still wanted to wait and ask them if they knew San Juan. Chinkai rubbed his hands and said, I'll try it. The few people then separated. Sugu put the wine glass down at the table and continued to pick up his own juice. When he saw Guam, he asked, whose wine glass is that? Admiral, you are a grown man actually drinking juice. It's embarrassing to see you. That wine glass belongs to Richelieu. Richelieu. Sugu looked in the direction of Richelieu, who was looking away and could not see her expression for a while. However, the relationship between the two of them is that of an admiral and a ship's wife. They are as close as brothers and sisters, so it doesn't matter. Richelieu didn't mind, he didn't mind at all. But after he took the wine away, the other party seemed to get another glass of wine. Sugu said, speaking of how we defeated such a powerful deep-sea ship girl, we actually didn't get any ship girls. It's not that easy. Sugu said, that's right. Our garrison has been idle for more than half a year, and we just caught the destroyer Irashi. Speaking of which, if those enemies are American deep-sea ship girls, we should only be able to catch American ship girls. If we can, we will almost catch the company. By then, the 3 York City-class sisters will be in the garrison. Regarding salvaging ships, it's not like in the game. Even if you are frying fish, light cruisers, heavy cruisers, and battle cruisers are all available. Here you can get the ship girl after defeating it. You will never get the battleship after defeating the deep-sea destroyer. In general, catching the ship girl only dispels the hatred in the deep-sea ship girl's heart and allows the deep-sea ship girl to return to her appearance as a ship girl. At the same time, in reality, it is not like some ship girls in the game can only be obtained through construction. Besides, if the Enterprise could be obtained through events, then it would be considered as defeating the deep-sea ship girl and then salvaging it. This time, if the other party is really the 3 York City-level sisters in the deep sea, then it is possible to get the Enterprise, but the Enterprise. Sugu said, the chance of catching the Enterprise in this way is not as good as my chance of catching the Enterprise at the ship's headquarters. That way is more likely. You don't know that I can get along well with her. The company is a sharp-tongued person, and the two have become familiar with each other, and they are considered equal opponents. However, due to the long distance between the two parties, there are basically not many opportunities to meet. It's just that the company will still visit once in a while, for example, every month, and the Jianniang headquarters will ask for help to deal with some matters that cannot be handled. But even this is more likely than defeating the deep-sea ship girl to get the Enterprise. I've never seen that Enterprise before. Compared with the banquet in his own town palace, the banquet here is handled by the chef of the cruise ship. It tastes much better and has many more types than in his own town palace. Sugu tasted the dishes and didn't finish them all at once. He already felt a little full. Then he was about to eat the fruit, when suddenly cheers came from the banquet. She ate the whole pig leg, it was amazing. She ate a lot of scallops. Bring the lemon duck over here. Sugu didn't need to look to know that it was the voice coming from Akagi's side, because this kind of thing was already a daily routine in the guardhouse. Many people can be the MVP on the battlefield, whether it is Bismarck or Tirpitz, whether it is Lexington or Saratoga, but Akagi will always be the MVP at the dinner table. Although her movements were still graceful, the plates in front of her were increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye, while the food was decreasing. Although no one cared about it at first, many people soon noticed the strangeness of Akagi, and then some people gathered around. Akagi also didn't care. What's the point of not having a full meal after the battle? Akagi will always be the shining star on the dining table. Seeing this scene, Guam said, "How do you feel, Admiral?" "No feeling. Don't you want to feed it with your own hands?" Sugu shrugged and said, "I've already fed him." Akagi went on a killing spree on the dining table, and finally she was satisfied when she ate less than half of the table's food by herself. After going to Shikhang to eat, they had to repair and replenish resources. Then Sugu got a mission. "Admiral, please help me bring my clothes, as well as Richelieu's clothes. Akagi and Richelieu must enter the canal for repairs here. After all, resources can be supplemented here. The cabin of the ship is only for living, and there are not many other functions." Suguman went over to help get clothes. Akagi remembered to bring a yukata. At this time, he should help her bring this set. Richelieu had already changed her clothes. After all, when she came back, her clothes were in tatters. The only thing she needed to change was probably her underwear. Underwear, Akagi is fine, it can be regarded as his wedding ship, but Richelieu feels something is wrong no matter how he thinks about it. Sugu thought about how to deal with it better, and then Guam chased him out, otherwise it would be really difficult to handle. Haha, actually it's not really a difficult thing to do. Sugu and Guam returned to the room, and then rummaged through Akagi and Richelieu's clothes. Guam said, "When I came back, I was taught a lesson by Richelieu. She said why I wanted to go there. There was no one around the Admiral to protect me. I'm very safe here. I haven't encountered a single deep-sea carrier-based aircraft. It's just right. It's probably because the deep-sea carrier-based aircraft didn't find the cruise ship when it pounced on it. Otherwise, it would have been bad if it only needed to drop a few bombs. The matter has passed. The danger is only on the battlefield. We were in danger, but I didn't help at all. Akagi solved it alone." Sugu heard a little about the battle, and he said, "Then I guess I was too worried, but I was really worried at that time. Think about it, we are near Midway Island in the old world, and there are 3 enemies. A deep-sea aircraft carrier is worth worrying about no matter what." Akagi said that you can't rely on feeling when fighting. You must judge the enemy's behavior in advance. If you always feel the feeling, you will easily lose your position, and you can't rely on feeling in every battle. Besides, give Akage some confidence, she is such a powerful aircraft carrier. I ran over specifically to protect her, but instead I felt like I was being protected. Feeling guilty? If you had listened to me earlier, those 3 deep-sea carrier-based aircraft would have been your prey, making you disbelieve my words. What are you talking about? I've already said it, if I couldn't be used in the past, I would be punished by the Admiral. Guam exploded. What's the punishment? Guam thought as he found Akage's yukata in the room and threw it to Sugu. Wear this. Sugu held the suit and was a little confused for a moment, thinking to himself, he just said he would be punished. He said doubtfully, wear this. Isn't this Akage's clothes? Sugu breathed a sigh of relief and said, I almost thought you asked me to wear this as punishment. What are you talking about? I said it was a punishment for you. In fact, I don't know if going over this time is useful or not. Although the anti-aircraft machine guns didn't fire when I went over, it would be a little reminder to Akage. I sent you there, but you are useless. But if I didn't send you, Akage might really get hurt, and then I would fall into regret. I thought of a word, Schrodinger's cat, I don't know if it counts. Schrodinger's cat, what does that mean? I'm not sure what it means. I feel like it's a word that can be used everywhere. There are 2 states of sending you to attack and not sending you to attack. If you are sent to attack, Akage will find the deep-sea carrier-based aircraft. If you are not sent to attack, Akage will find the deep-sea carrier-based aircraft. You attacked, then, I can't explain it anymore. Forget it, it's over anyway, don't worry about it. Yeah, it's over. By the way, have you found all their clothes? Found it, Admiral. Speaking of it, I just said I would punish you. Then I'll give this to you. You can dress up as a woman. Sugu caught the clothes thrown by Guam. It was a cartoon-style Lolita-style skirt belonging to Guam. Sugu had a strange expression, and then Guam burst into laughter over there. Guam finished laughing and then said, it's good that the Admiral is worried about everyone, but sometimes. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 403. In the bright room, the floor is paved with goose yellow tiles, and there are several green potted plants placed in the corners. There is a huge mirror hanging on the wall. Next to the mirror are many shower heads and many low benches. There is a large bath in the middle of the room, and there are many small baths next to it. This is the sewer room. To a certain extent, it's almost as good as a lounge or a bathroom. Z21, sit still and let me help you rinse the foam off your head. Z21 is the other destroyer on the cruise ship besides Geet. She was not as unlucky as Geet. She was basically bombed at the beginning and was completely destroyed, so she could only retreat and return. Z21 kept fighting throughout the game, and even defeated a deep-sea destroyer with a torpedo in the end. Although it was a bargain, it still achieved a result. Z21 rubbed her eyes and said, the bubbles are in my eyes. ISE, do you want milk or soda? Give me iced milk. Koryamai, you actually brought snacks in. That's too much. Give me yokon. There were chirping sounds, there were many people in this canal room. There are shy girls who wrap themselves in bath towels, there are generous girls who casually put a towel on their shoulders and walk around, and there are also little girls who hold a soda with one hand on their hips and drinking it down in one gulp. Extraordinary. In short, there are mature, plump and attractive bodies, young and graceful bodies, and immature bodies. The spring scenery here is endless, enough to make your eyes shine. Everything is fine, but no man can come in and enjoy such a wonderful scenery. Xiang Feng, who has long purple hair, is sitting on the bench, washing her face with soap. At this time of year, we are not so particular about shower gel and facial cleanser. Anyway, you are a ship girl, so you don't have to worry about damaging your skin, just do the most basic cleaning. Xiangfeng finished using the soap and rubbed his face with his hands, trying to thoroughly clean the stains on his face. After a few seconds, rinse your face with water and shake your head. After doing these things, she took off the big bath towel around her body and put it next to her, and then walked into the big bath. Hey, Akagi, it's good not to have Guam around. That girl talks a lot. Her long, silky black hair was tied up, and Akagi's entire body was immersed in the water, exposing her eyes. Then he saw Xiangfeng's lips moving, as if he was trying to explain himself. Akagi got up from the water, feeling that his movements were a bit childish. How? It feels like you have something on your mind. No. Even though Akagi said that, she blinked and thought to herself, really wanting to take a bath with the Admiral and then ask the Admiral to rub her back. I heard that Saratoga did this once in the past, although the end result was that the Admiral's head was bruised, and both of them were laughed at for many days. Unfortunately, there were too many people in the canal room this time, and there was really no way to call my Admiral over. It seemed that I could only wait until winter when I had time to go to the hot springs for a mixed bath. Anyway, everything is on track now in the governor's mansion. It doesn't have anything to do with a little traveling. Xiangfeng said, "Look, there are many people over there at Richelieu." Akagi looked to the side and saw that someone had already walked out of the bath in the channel room. Most of them were light cruisers and destroyers, and their injuries were minor and only took a short time to recover. Also, with minor injuries, on a battleship like Richelieu, they need to stay in the entry chamber for a long time. However, even so, several ship girls who seemed to have completed repairs were still staying by Richelieu's side. After all, Richelieu would be on the battlefield, reaching out to help block the artillery fire. She is a strong knight, she is a knight who hoe the strong and help the weak. If the aircraft carrier is the little sister, then the battleship is the big sister. Of course, for many ship girls, aircraft carriers are accurately called big devils. However, many aircraft carriers are often not capable of carrier-based aircraft, and the title of Big Devil cannot be spread. If every aircraft carrier was equipped with a B-25, then there would be no battleships. Akagi said, "Yes, Richelieu is a very charming person. You seem to have a normal relationship. Ordinary sisters." Xiangfeng said, "Is there anyone in Akagi who is very good at playing?" "Yes, my good friend and sister are Kagahao. She likes to drink." When talking about Kaga, Akagi smiled. Thanks to Kaga's company on the way from the Tutelary mansion, whether it was working as an instructor in Kawahide or doing anything, many things were inseparable from Kaga's arrangements. It's just that now that I am very happy, she doesn't know where she is, which makes people feel worried. "Is Kaga also your Admiral's ship girl?" Akagi said, "Yes. That Admiral of yours is really lucky, Akagi Kaga, everything is ready for the first flight." Xiangfeng closed her eyes in the bathtub, then opened them again. She reached out and poked Akagi's round shoulder, feeling the smooth and elastic skin. "Akagi, your skin is so good. The hair is good too." Akagi's black hair is quite smooth, like silk. Although it is said that the hair of the ship girl will not be dry and split, there are still good and bad hair. For example, Bismarck's hair always stood up, which often made him look troublesome. Sometimes he couldn't be serious even if he wanted to, and he was always called a cat. In the face of praise, Akagi will never be proud, but he will not be humble and object either. Akagi did not speak, and then Xiangfeng said, "No wonder your Admiral is so worried about you, Akagi is so beautiful. You must let Guam attack to help you, no matter whether it is of no use in the end, it is good to gain a good impression, your Admiral is sure of you. If you have some ideas, I care about you so much." When Xiangfeng said this, Akagi felt funny. She stroked her fingers and did not take out the ring this time. Akage said, "There is no need to work on your favor, I am the admiral's wedding ship." Xiangfeng opened her mouth slightly and said, "I didn't know, Shi Kong is actually married. You admiral are so quick to act." Akage thought again, it's not that he strikes quickly, it's that he strikes faster. If I don't take the initiative, I don't know when the admiral will get the idea. When they first met, he expressed his thoughts clearly, but it was obvious that his admiral's head was rusty, and he couldn't even show it through such obvious signs. But it took a long time for me to realize that the admiral's character is that if you don't take the initiative, you will always be passive. Akage looked at the chandelier hanging from the ceiling, and then looked at Richelieu in the distance with a somewhat proud expression. Finally, someone was slower than him. "I like the admiral. How bold. Hey, Akage, let's have a drink. Do you want to see it? What are you looking at? Go into the ditch." "Pervert, I don't want to." "What a hypocrite. What hypocrisy." Question, Kirishima, are you a wedding ship? "Not yet, I'm a little less fond of you, but I have the ring ready." Sugu opened his hand and waved it in front of Chinkai's face, and said, "I've been married for 10 years. We are already 10 weddings away, and we are still afraid that our bodies cannot afford it, so how could we possibly need to take a peek? Of those girls with beautiful portraits in the game, I didn't have a favorability rating of 100, so I need to slowly improve them here. For example, York City took a year to build, but I still treated it very well. However, as of now, I probably have some good feelings, but definitely not 100, 80 is enough. Even if the ship girl likes the admiral easily, getting married will not be accomplished in a short time." After hearing what Sugu said, Chinkai said, "You are cheating." Sugu nodded and said, "It's true that he cheated, this was the truth." "Which ship girls have you married in total?" Sugu said, "You'd better not know." "With 10 wedding ships, is there a Shura field?" "No." "Can I sleep with you?" "Thinking too much, it's best for my sister to do it." Whether it's Saratoga or Bazai, Nehi's sister is obviously hard to convince. This doesn't work, so what's the point? Sugu pointed at Chinkai and said, "You must be jealous." Chinkai left quickly. His ship girl Kirishima simply needed to replenish fuel. After all, she just went to make soy sauce. Wei Lian had more things to do than anyone else. She couldn't see anyone after the banquet. It was said that she had to write reports and communicate with people from all walks of life. Only Sugu still had to wait for Richelieu and Akage here, feeling bored, and then he played poker with Guam. Sugu was an invincible devil-like being in the governor's mansion, and Guam was quickly defeated by him. Humanity always repeats the same tragedy. "Guam, you must come back and defeat me. Please, run, run for your life before I lose all my mind, black flames are burning in my heart, I must release him." Guam was holding the playing cards, wondering whether to play the J of clubs or the K of diamonds. When she heard Sugu's voice and saw the proud smile on Sugu's face, she felt itchy with hatred and said, "Admiral, if you keep talking nonsense, you'll be fine, it's messing with my train of thought." Sugu put together the playing cards in his hand. He was not afraid of Guam. Which ship girl in the guardhouse would dare to do something to him? He said, "There is no doubt about life itself. Only death can let you understand the true meaning of human nature, play the cards lead to death." Seeing that she had no choice but to see Sugu's smiling face, she knew that she would definitely lose. Gwanda blinked her eyes and prepared to cheat. She dropped the poker and said, "Admiral, you win, so I won't play anymore." Sugu chuckled. Bullying his ship girl was the most interesting thing. She liked doing this kind of thing the most. He said coldly, "Guam, Guam, weakling." Guam said angrily, "You still owe me women's clothing. You're overthinking, how could Sugu dress up as a woman? Tisk, you cheating admiral." Sugu shuffled the cards and said, "What else are you playing with?" Akage completed the repairs not long after, and when she came back, she was wearing a blue yukata with petals embroidered on it. It was ankle-length, cross-collared, and had wide sleeves. Her long, smooth black hair was pulled up with a hairpin, but it seemed a little loose. Sugu had never seen Akage like this. Although Akage often wore a yukata, her previous image had long hair shawl and a dignified face. However, at this time, her slightly damp long hair was pulled up, and her delicate face was slightly red due to drinking, which unexpectedly gave her a charming look. "Akage, you amaze me. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai Rong Yan. Chapter 404. Akage's yukata looked charming. Sugu looked him up and down, then calmed down and asked, "Isn't Richelieu out yet?" "She's a battleship, and she's more seriously injured than me. It'll probably take a while." Akage's original injuries were less serious than Richelieu's, only the flight deck was damaged. Although because it is an aircraft carrier, repairs often take longer than ordinary ship girls. But she is a wedding ship, which is very mysterious to say, but a ship girl who becomes a wedding ship recovers faster than an ordinary ship girl. Of course, this is not a game. In reality, it is very rare to have a chance to repair something. Anyway, it doesn't take more than a day. In fact, it doesn't make much difference if it's faster or slower. Richelieu is a battleship. She always rushes around the battlefield alone, like a chariot. She would even occasionally stretch out her hand to shield her companions from the gunfire. Although the gunfire from the boats could only leave a few scratches on her body, the cumulative effect was still a little bit of damage. Besides, her air defense was not very good to begin with, and she also suffered some damage from the bombings of carrier-based aircraft. Calculating this, Richelieu spent more time repairing than anyone here. "Aren't you waiting for Richelieu?" Akage smiled and said, "Richelieu doesn't need my company. Richelieu is a star now." The speaker was Xiang Feng, who was also wearing a yukata. After all, she was also a Japanese ship girl and always had some preferences. Xiang Feng is equally beautiful in a yukata, but compared to Akage, she is still a little worse. Of course, there may be a lot of bonus points because Akage is a powerful and rare ship girl. Sugu had only seen Xiang Feng twice and knew that it was Wei Lian's ship girl, but he was not familiar with it. After all, she is not a rare ship girl, nor is she a cute little loli, soft or energetic. Sugu doesn't have much interest in dealing with every ship girl. Besides, the other party probably thinks the same way. Then Xiang Feng talked about Richelieu, who entered the canal room. The large bathing pool in the entrance room has several steps from shallow to deep. Richelieu sat on the steps, his body immersed in the water with only his shoulders exposed. There were several people around her, and ISE was asking questions. As a battleship, Richelieu was much more powerful than her. Usually things or management are in order, but after a big break, he will seem a little dull, and the Royal Oak is playing music next to it. In addition, Oakland kept talking and boxing next to him. Sugu just imagined it and could probably think of Richelieu's appearance. It's just that although he was surrounded by people like an emperor, Richelieu might not like him that much because of his character. Sugu said, "Then we probably have to wait here until we finish the supper before Richelieu comes out." Guam asked, "What should I do?" "Keep waiting. We have to continue waiting for Richelieu here. After all, several people have gone back to their rooms, which will not have a good impact. Even if there is still a distinction between closeness and distance in his heart, for example, Xiaozai, Lexington, and others are considered the first level in Sugu's heart, such as York and Leipzig, such ship girls are definitely not as good as the former. But no matter who makes a request, Sugu will never refuse. There may be unconscious partiality, but there is no intentional partiality. Richelieu is also a battleship. Although it is slightly inferior to Akagi's position in the heart, it is still worthy of people's liking. After all, he came back from thousands of miles away. After waiting for a long time, Guam was tortured by Sugu for a lot of time in games, poker, and chess. If it's a stripping game, even if the headband is considered a piece of clothing, Guam is already clean now. However, even an admiral, as a ship girl, would not play this kind of game. In the Shuga garrison, probably only Saratoga and Bazai will play with you. The destroyer would probably agree to this kind of gameplay, but Sugu would not agree. He has love for the little girl, not a pervert. Among the few people, only Guam was familiar with everyone. She said, "Akagi, Xiangfeng, let's play cards and run away with a few more people, she wouldn't be so miserable." Xiangfeng nodded. Anyway, she had nothing to do. The initial decision was to park the cruise ship overnight and wait until daytime tomorrow before sailing again. At this time, there were outsiders around, so Sugu couldn't act so good. He simply played cards and then simply won, feeling happy. However, by the third round, Sugu finally couldn't bear it anymore. "Xiangfeng, is there something weird about me?" From the very beginning, Sugu noticed that Xiangfeng had been staring at him, looking up and down. That look was obviously not because she liked herself. Besides, Xiangfeng was already a ship girl with an admiral, so it was also not a look that chose an admiral for herself. But there is nothing surprising about him at all. After all, he has just tortured Guam so hard that Guam can't even say anything to hurt him in terms of his own image. Sugu asked, and Xiangfeng waited for a while before saying, "Akagi is your wedding ship?" "Yes. I don't see what Akagi likes about you. You are really direct in your words." Sugu threw down the last pair of cards in his hand. He had no cards and said, "Does being good at cards count, Guam? You have 8 cards, double 16 points. Akagi, what the hell are you doing? Do you know how to play? You score 52 points, haha. Being good at cards is a bonus, but winning against a girl makes you smile so happily when someone is unlucky. If you weren't an admiral, you wouldn't be able to find a girlfriend at all. Xiangfeng, you are so annoying." Akagi's skills were pretty bad, and then she stopped playing. She sat and watched, eating while watching, which made people suspect that her main reason for not playing was to eat. One person is missing, and then several people play landlords. This round, Sugu will be unlucky. "Guam, the two of us are farmers. It doesn't matter if you help Xiangfeng and beat me together. You can fight with your elbows turned outwards. There are no rules for how I should fight. I just like it." You. After waiting for a long time, even after having a midnight snack, Richelieu still didn't come back. Sugu was even thinking about whether to marry Richelieu. As long as he gave the ring, Richelieu would definitely take it. Then I thought about it, and it really didn't work. Ever since I started dating Helena and then married Akagi, I feel less and less stressed about these things now. Thinking about it, I have heard my sister-in-law Saratoga complain about her pervert brother-in-law, coquettish Helena, and vixen Akagi many times. Richelieu did not come back, but Sugu saw the royal oak after the repairs were completed, with black hair and flat bangs, which was very cute. The royal oak soon left and everyone continued to play. "You have been peeking at Akagi." "Nonsense." "Exactly. Akagi, come and sit next to me. It's my wedding ship. You don't need to look at it. I have a knee pillow." Xiangfeng was so angry that Sugu smiled proudly, thinking that you can't defeat me. After eating midnight snack, we waited for a while, and finally waited until Richelieu came out soon. "Just wait, you can go back to sleep first." There is nothing wrong with listening to what girls say. Richelieu said you can go back, so in the end it is better not to go back first. It's okay to go back anyway, now you're out, gone, back. Richelieu came back, it was already late at night, and then everyone returned to their cabins. Initially, Sugu was okay in front of outsiders, but when he returned to the room, Sugu was told by Richelieu, for example, about his sending Guam to attack. Unless there is a new enemy situation, Guam cannot be allowed to attack just because of a feeling. What if there is real danger? We are all ship girls no matter what, but as an ordinary person, you have to spend 100 days breaking your muscles and bones. Sugu knew that Richelieu was doing it for his own good. Even though he was taught a lesson, he still couldn't treat his good intentions like a donkey's liver and lungs. Ship girls are not like ordinary people. They need to be trained at any time. They also need sticks and carrots to ensure their loyalty. As an admiral, they are afraid of being ignored by their own ship girls. To a certain extent, the ship girl will stay by your side to recognize you as an admiral, and you don't have to worry about being betrayed. If they were really full of evil, they would have turned into deep-sea ship girls long ago. While possessing great power, luckily they have some simple and kind nature, otherwise the whole world would have been over long ago. After all, they are superhuman ship girls. Admiral, your safety is the most important thing. Lexington, Bismarck, and the Prince of Wales all told me before they came out that your safety must be guaranteed. Sugu thought to himself, why not find Akagi? Maybe Akagi is not reliable. Admiral, you can do whatever you want, we will do it. I've never seen you force people to eat soft food like this. It's really awesome. Richelieu talked a lot, and finally Sugu spoke. He said, I am also worried about you. I will protect my safety, so I will also set a rule now. Sugu wanted to say, if you are in danger, just leave without caring about anything else. But then I immediately thought that even if everyone obeyed the admiral's orders as ship girls, they really had to desert the ship. Once you do this kind of thing once, you will probably feel uneasy for the rest of your life. Uneasiness is the most unstable factor for a ship girl. After all, honor and respect are very important things to anyone. Especially people like Richelieu, if they need to retreat, they will definitely take the initiative to assume the task of rear guard. Sugu thought about how to start tactfully, and after a long while he said, make a rule, there seems to be nothing to say, but safety comes first anyway. Of course we will pay attention to safety, Richelieu said. Sugu thought again, should he bring more people with him next time he goes out? Everyone should bring them together. It doesn't matter what deep-sea flagship you have, just push it over. Thinking about it, there are only a few such dangerous things, and there is no need to stop eating due to choking. I have been out for such a long time and have basically encountered no danger. Besides, this time it is not actually a danger. The cruise ship's escort was able to handle such a thing, and it was only because of the addition of Richelieu and Akagi that what was destined to be a bad ending became better. We talked about some serious business and some gossip. To be honest, do you think the enemies this time are the 3 York City-level sisters in the deep sea? There is a camera in Leipzig. It was given to her by Bazai, but it's a pity that she didn't bring it out. Bring it out, you won't be able to take pictures during the battle. We are not those fast-moving ship girls who work as reporters. Sugu thought of the Hong Kong reporter. I feel like I've lost a lot since I didn't catch the boat. Maybe a ship girl will appear after we leave. There is a possibility, but we can't stay there. Speaking of which, Wei Lian said he wanted to apply for a card for me, a gold card, which would give me a 20% discount on all future boat rides. There was also not much gossip, although usually everyone would chat until quite late. Even when Richelieu was reading at the most critical time and Guam was practicing his piano skills, at night, everyone would put down what they were doing and gather together. If you can't be with the admiral when you go out, then what's the point? This is what Sugu heard Sheikh Hung say. For this reason, Sugu must take time to chat with everyone every day. Of course, this is obviously not forced, but something he is happy to do. Richelieu, Akage, and Guam, although the three of them have different styles, they are all absolute beauties. It's just that tonight everyone has worked hard all day, and several people have attacked. Sugu himself has been worried for a day, so how can he have so much energy? There was no need to chat anymore, and I briefly talked about things. What should I pay attention to in the future, what should I do if this happens, and then I got ready to go to bed. It was late at night, and they went to sleep. Guam shook his long blue hair and went back to the room first. Then there is Richelieu. Not to mention, Richelieu's back and figure are really good, especially after taking a bath. His long golden hair is slightly wet and draped on his shoulders. She was wearing a tank top and hot pants, with plump buttocks and long legs, and her long legs were sexy and powerful. To a certain extent, Richelieu and Bismarck have too much overlap in terms of stature. Go to sleep. Sugu stretched his body and twisted his neck. In the past, I always had to wait until midnight before going to bed, but now, in places without internet, I often go to bed very early. Now the biological clock has been completely adjusted. Sugu watched them go back to the room one by one, then took a drink of water and prepared to go back to the room. When he walked into the room, he saw Akage following him. Akage was wearing a yukata, with the collar slightly untied, revealing the fair skin underneath. The long black hair that was originally tied up has been taken off. Her long black hair was disheveled, and her face was originally red from drinking, but she had obviously not sobered up yet, and her face was full of charm. Vixen, 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 Sugu finally understood why Saratoga always said this. Akage, who has always been accustomed to look like a dignified lady, becomes a bit frightening when she becomes charming, making people feel like they are falling into her trap. Although he was about to move in his heart, nothing was wrong on the surface. Advisor Su said, Akage, why don't you go back to sleep? It doesn't matter if I sleep with the Admiral. Sugu was stunned. I won't eat you, Admiral. I just have something to say to the Admiral. Sugu thought to himself, I'm just worried that you won't eat and are just talking, which will disappoint people. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 405. A soft voice sounded in the darkness. Admiral, do you remember when we first met? I don't mean a long time ago, but after the Admiral left. Sugu tried hard to recall, remembering that when he first saw Akage, he took York City to study at a branch specialized in aircraft carriers. It was the first time I saw Akage on the steps in front of the branch. She looked dignified in her wide-sleeved kimono. As everyone in the academy calls Akage, in addition to eating, there is another nickname, Goddess Akage. Sugu said, in front of the branch hospital. No, the first time we met after we separated was when I gave you an interview with the Admiral. Although I usually don't participate in such things in the academy, I accidentally saw the Admiral's test paper. Both the name and the handwriting are quite familiar. Although Chi not to mention Berlin, I also want to participate in the interview and be the examiner. When Akage talked about the interview, Sugiwei couldn't say anything. When he was doing the interview, he felt very strange as to why there were such strange questions. In addition to the difficult to choose questions in general interviews, there are always some strange questions mixed in with those questions. For example, what kind of girl do you like, what kind of hairstyle do you like, and in the end you even have to write love poems and love songs. Although I knew afterwards that it was Akage's question, it was still difficult to understand why the dignified Akage asked such a question, even though he knew it was his kanji. You still have the nerve to tell me what questions you asked at that time. Why is it hard to say? If you want to know the answer, just ask. Hearing Shishin's words, Sugu was speechless for a moment. He just did what he wanted to do. That was such an ordinary answer. So you know the answer, what did you do? I've done a lot. Do you still remember the Kyoto Club? And now I have the ring. Sugu was lying on the bed. He looked at the hazy outline of the desk and wardrobe in the room. Then he remembered the kiss in the Kyoto Club, and then he remembered that a few days before Richelieu came back, Akage stretched out his hand in front of him. Although he didn't say anything, it felt like he was grabbing the ring. Akage usually looks dignified, but he is the boldest when he does things. Sugu thought to himself, you really don't know how to be shy, and then heard Akage say, after all, the Admiral's character, if we don't take the initiative, we will never get what we want. You don't shy away from speaking your mind, but this personality makes people like you. However, Akage was so generous, but Sugu couldn't let go. He was the type who dared to think but not do. Akage said this. She turned around on the bed and looked at Sugu and said, it's so nice to sleep with the Admiral. It's a rare opportunity to come out. There is no Lexington, no Saratoga, especially there is no cottage. Sugu looked at Akage. Under the faint moonlight, Akage did not take off his yukata, looking demure. Sugu said, actually, I also feel very good. Really? More real than real money and silver. Hearing Sugu's words, Akage smiled and said, but when I started watching you guys playing cards, I saw you staring at the Royal Oak. The Royal Oak is very cute. The Royal Oak is indeed very cute. I really didn't notice it before. Fortunately, I didn't dismantle the ship. However, Sugu still said, comparing the two of you, you are the cuter and more beautiful. I believe you. Shi Kung held Sugu's hand. Of course Sugu wouldn't break away. He was not a fool. Sugu pursed his lips and said nothing. Shi Kung said, Admiral, do you know? I am very happy today. Why are you so happy? I don't know about Richelieu and Guam, but I remember, when I was an admiral, I felt like a passerby. No matter what we did, you didn't care. We were nothing like ordinary admirals and ship girls. When we were in the academy, if we didn't come to you, you would never come to us. The unfamiliar expressions and eyes are like treating guests, which makes people feel scared. The Admiral asked Guam to attack today, although it is of no use. Because I will definitely fight hard to be with the Admiral. Except time can separate us, no one or anything can separate us, although the Guam attack is useless, but I can feel the Admiral's thoughts. The Admiral's character has never been fond of speaking harshly, but this time the Admiral actually said harsh words to Guam for my sake. Sugu remembered that he wanted Guam to attack in the morning. Although he knew that Guam was for his own good, he still got excited and said, actually, it's not a harsh word, it's just that the voice was a little higher. And, for this, I asked Guam apologized properly and was reluctantly forgiven. Akage said, it's not just because the Admiral cares about me that I'm happy, it's because the Admiral has become an Admiral. That's why I'm happy. Sugu rested his head on his hands, thinking that his mentality now is indeed different from before. He didn't say anything, and after a moment, he said, I will care about you like this in the future. Hearing Sugu's words, Akage smiled. She didn't say anything more. After a moment, she said, I've been busy all day today. I'm so tired. Admiral, lend me your arm to use as a pillow. Akage said this, then closed his eyes and stopped talking. With Akage's character, Sugu was also looking forward to what would happen next, like Lexington and Bismarck. Akage. After waiting for several minutes, Sugu called out, but received no response. He only saw Akage curled up in the darkness, and only the faint sound of breathing could be heard. Akage, you are not playing according to the routine. Although there was a pillow, Sugu still put his other arm under his head. He thought to himself that for a ship girl, it never mattered what she did. The physical relationship was far less important than the spiritual one. Emotions were the most important factor in maintaining a ship girl and an admiral. Just like a female admiral can also marry a ship's wife, it is impossible to be a true lily. Marriage only makes the ship's wife feel that she is valued. Just like many destroyers of personal marriage, it is understandable to have thoughts about anyone, but having thoughts about little girls is a big perversion. Even so, they still have to join the gendarmerie. Ship girl, you are sensitive to everything, it seems you need to pay more attention in the future. Sugu laughed and said that he couldn't eat himself, but he really couldn't eat himself. It doesn't matter, Akage, have a good sleep. The next day, Akage went out from Sugu's room, and Sugu endured Guam's strange looks all morning. Although Richelieu didn't show much, he felt that he was being treated a little indifferently. Akage was as usual, as if nothing had happened. The cruise ship continued sailing in the morning, and life on this day was as usual, just like the life on the cruise ship before, reading books or chatting to kill the whole day. Sugu still slept with Akage that night, and nothing happened. Then another day passed like this, and Sugu ate Akage. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 406. Sugu decided to eat Akage. This idea came to him after Akage slept next to him for 2 days. After all, there was a beautiful girl sleeping next to him, and Sugu was not Luxiawai, so this situation was unbearable. Besides, Luxiawai was facing a stranger, but Akage was his wedding ship, so the nature of it was completely different. Other than that, there aren't many reasons to want to eat Akage. After all, a man who can think with his lower body really needs too many reasons to push for his wedding ship? Only if he doesn't push does he need a reason. Pushing to the wedding ship, eating the wedding ship, that is a matter of course, there is no need to be ashamed at all. Well, I have already been married to 10 ship girls, and there may be more hateful admirals in the future, so I should be ashamed. The time when he ate Akage happened at night. When he was sleeping at night, he hugged Akage. Looking at Akage's appearance and smelling the fragrance of his hair, Sugu said, "Akage, I want to kiss you." Akage over there seemed to have been waiting for such words for a long time. She blinked and said, "Okay." So just like that, Sugu stretched out his hand and put it around Shishin's neck. Shikung raised his head slightly, Sugu lowered his head, and then kissed Shishin's lips gently. To a certain extent, Sugu was already familiar with certain things. Of course, kissing was more than just kissing. He put his palms on Akage's shoulders. Such action, without resistance, Sugu knew that he could continue. Akage used to wear bandages and wear a tube top after getting on the cruise ship, but she wore a yukata before going to bed at night. At this time, Sugu smoothly peeled off his yukata, revealing Akage who was naked inside. Akage is not like Bismarck. He looks serious and rigid, but in his heart he is just a soft cat. Even at this time, Akage seems much more generous. Whereas Bismarck is completely at your mercy, Akage has his arms around your neck. In the darkness, Sugu said, "Why is Akage not wearing a bandage? What about the bandages? It would taste better if it was a bandage." Akage stretched out his finger and pointed at Sugu's chest and said, "You are perverted, Admiral." Calling you a big pervert at this time was never a curse word, it was more of a joke, which made people more excited, but Akage's words afterwards made people feel discouraged. Akage said, finally caught up with Lexington. "Do you also want to compare this kind of thing? Actually, besides thinking about Lexington, I also think about Kaga." "You are thinking about Kaga at this time? I really don't know what to say. Remember that I gave you a ring before, Admiral, have you forgotten? That was the ring that Kaga gave me. I hope you give the ring to Kaga. Who knows that I got the ring before her, in fact, Kaga also like you. There are so many affectionate ship girls in the garrison. Even apart from elementary school students like destroyers or young girls like gun divers and submarines, there are many adult ship girls. People like Kent and even Prince Eugen are very fond of him. Giving out a ring just because you feel good about it is a bit exaggerated. It's not impossible to give out a ring, but there must be some emotional foundation. Besides, the ship girl doesn't care about certain things. If she doesn't care, she doesn't care. If you have it and I don't have it, I still want to compare. Bismarck wanted to compare with the Prince of Wales, and now Akage wanted to compare with Lexington. If the comparisons were endless, he might be doomed. Akage, don't say those words. At this time, you should say something like, I like you, or Admiral, you are so awesome. It's Lexington again, Kaga again, and next. Who are you talking about? Akage hugged Sugu and said, didn't Saratoga always call me a vixen? I am not a vixen. But when it comes to vixens, it's not me who seduces the Admiral, it's the Admiral himself who has no tolerance. Sugu's voice was a little aggrieved, and he said, Akage. Akage smiled and said, Admiral, I like you. Groping, kissing, whispering, suppressed hums, pain, and under such circumstances, Sugu devoured Akage until nothing was left. After knocking down Akage, eating Akage, nothing happened the next day. Counting from that day, 2 days later, the cruise ship docked at Xiongta Island in the early morning. Xiongta Island is much larger than the small islands where the garrison is stationed that we have seen along the way. There is not only a town hall here, but also a small town here. I heard it is a tourist destination with quite nice scenery. Sugu looked over from a distance. The houses in the town were not the kind of high-rise buildings. They were all houses with red tiles and white walls. Some of them looked like the small islands and towns where Exeter used to be, but there were large areas here that were not there. Beautiful maple tree. In addition, I heard that there is a quite powerful garrison here, although I don't know how many rumors are passed down about it. The cruise ship docks at Xiongta Island. Everyone can get on and off the ship at will. You just need to board the ship before night. Wei Lian was walking on this route and knew all the admirals in the garrison along the route. Sugu helped her a lot, and she took Sugu to visit the garrison here. After all, it might be useful in many places in the future. Although Sugu knew that it would generally not be of use, the ship girl in his garrison was super powerful. The admiral of Xiongta Island's garrison is a middle-aged woman who wears glasses and has a dignified and stereotyped image. It is said that the secretary ship is the battleship Nagato, but it is difficult to tell from the appearance. The admiral here also didn't have much time to introduce each other and chat, and then he just talked for more than 10 minutes and then gave up. Coming out of the other party's reception room, Wei Lian said, "Don't look at her like that, she is just a sharp-tongued person with a soft heart." Sugu nodded and said, "I don't feel slighted. I have something going on." Then another ship girl came over to show Sugu around. "The admiral is actually very happy that you come here, because there are very few admirals coming here. It's too far into the ocean." The other party's ship's wife took everyone on a tour. Standing at the pier, Advisor Su asked, "Are there any sunken ships here?" From the very beginning, Sugu considered bringing Akage over to see Xiongta Island. Maybe there would be an opportunity for Akage to transform. Since I came here for this purpose, I naturally wanted to ask if there were any ruins or sunken ships. Maybe after seeing this, Akage might think of something. It's a pity that Sugu got a disappointing answer later. No more. Even if there was a sunken ship, it would have been taken away long ago. While feeling disappointed, Sugu thought about it too. If it were the world that Sugu knew well, if the steel sank in the water, it would be in the water, and there would be no need to salvage it. But here, Everyone is probably fighting for steel that contains history and memory like this. Even if it is not the admiral, it can still be sold to the admiral. Naturally, there are no sunken ships now. But speaking of it, when the deep-sea ship girls and ship girls first appeared, there was a lot of steel containing history and memories, but it was all quickly wasted. After all, countless people who did not meet the qualifications were not recognized by past memories at all, but they also tried to build, and then were dismissed by a movie. It was only much later that we gradually figured out how to build it and who could become admirals. However, at that time, there was much less steel. There was no sunken ship, and there was no need to consider the wreckage of the plane. Sugu asked again, where is the old airport, or the runway? Not for the old airport. What about the many bombed battlefields? No. There seemed to be no information at all in this garrison. After walking around and saying a few words, Sugu said goodbye to the admiral here. After leaving the governor's mansion, Sugu took his ship girl and wandered around Xiongta Island for half a day. In general, he found nothing. In the end, I was basically sure that this was not Hawaii at all, and there was no Oahu nearby. I'm really naive about the transformation. Nothing is that easy. There was no way to find memories, so Sugu didn't care too much, and then he just took Richelieu, Akage, and Guam to spend a lot of time on the island like the passengers who got off the ship and visited the island. Eat a steak at a maple leaf restaurant or stroll on a white sandy beach. There are also many unique handicrafts and local products here. I was thinking about buying some back to make gifts for everyone. Then I thought it would be troublesome to carry too many things along the way, so I decided to wait until the return trip. Returning to the cruise ship in the evening, Guam said there, "Hey, Admiral, your theory is completely useless. After all, it took a day to come up with the theory. You are very annoying. I won't sing to you next time." Sugu knows a lot of songs. Although most of the songs cannot be sung by himself, some songs can still be sung from beginning to end, although it is unknown how many of them are out of tune. Guam still has a lot of talent in music. Often when Sugu sings a song, she can finish it by herself, and then she can slowly play it on the electronic keyboard, and she likes Sugu singing. Sugu used his trump card and Guam said, threatening people, "Admiral, luckily it's me. If it were my sister Alaska, she would not listen to threats. I am the admiral, and she will listen even if she doesn't want to. I think of your sister Alaska. Before we left, she wanted to build a bar in the townhouse and sing there. I don't know how she is doing with the bar now. She should, that's almost it. But it needs to be soundproofed so that it doesn't disturb anyone. Sister should know. Speaking of which, there is one thing. Why are you wearing a short skirt in Guam? Isn't it strange to wear a long skirt in this weather? Is this the kind of thing the admiral wants to ask? It's not that kind of thing. Guam, don't you know that if you sit in this position and wear a short skirt, you will be exposed easily? There was no scream as expected. Guam just sat upright, and Sugu said again, "Guam, can I call you Husky?" Why Husky? You are the sister of Alaska. Alaska is the big one, you are the second one, and the second one is the whiskey. Admiral, I need a beating. A strange thing happened on the third day after leaving Xiongta Island. At night, after finishing their routine chat at night, Sugu and Akage went back to their room to sleep, turned off the lights, took off their clothes, did some things about giving birth, and then simply hugged each other. There was nothing special. I wanted to do it that night, and then I did it, and then the next day. The next day, Sugu woke up earlier than Akage. When he woke up, he wanted to kiss Akage's forehead. Then, who are you? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai-de-rong Yan. Chapter 407. Sugu looked at the girl sleeping next to him. She could indeed be said to be a girl. Although I was shocked at first and wondered who this was. However, when his mind became a little clearer, he could still vaguely see the image of Akage from that face. It's just that compared to Akage's original dignified and mature appearance, this face is much less dignified and much more charming. In addition, the whole face is much more immature. In the past 2 days, I felt that Akage had become younger. At this time, I suddenly realized that Akage was completely young. Compared with the original image, her shoulders, arms, and waist have all become slender, and her figure has undoubtedly shrunk. It must have shrunk. Sugu's eyes moved on Akage's body, and he looked carefully and saw the round breasts. There was no shrinkage here, which made people feel a little relieved. Akage's original image was that of a dignified classical lady in her 20s, but now she looks like a high school student or college student at most. Sugu woke up, and Shikong also woke up. Compared to the past, Akage will smile when he wakes up. At this time, Akage woke up, more like a little girl. She sat on the bed in the image of a duck, and then stretched out her hands to rub her hazy sleeping eyes. "What's the matter? Admiral, you have such a strange expression." Even though he knew it was Akage, he had slept with her for several days and done the most intimate things. However, at this time, he still had some doubts. Sugu said, "Akage." After hearing Sugu's words, Shikong put down his hands, rubbing his eyes, and rested his palms on the bed. Although she had cut her bangs flat when she first came out of the governor's mansion, she had never had a straight bangs like today. In short, she looks a little younger like this. Akage said, "What? Akage, do you remember how many days it took for Kage to return to the tutelage?" "Admiral, are you confused? Kage hasn't come back at all." Okay, now it is absolutely certain that it is Akage." Sugu said, Akage, look in the mirror. There is a small dressing table in the room. The dressing table is similar to all the furniture and beds, and they are all locked to the ground." After hearing Sugu's words, Akage stood up and the thin blanket slipped from her body. Sugu was the only one here, and Akage didn't have any taboos. She got up from the bed lazily, then got out of bed and sat down at the dressing table. She made a lot of moves last night and spent a long time, so her hair was messy. Akage stretched out her hand to push away a few strands of hair that had naughtily fallen on her face. Looking at the mirror, she stroked her face, carefully examined her features, and then smiled knowingly. "Nothing strange." Sugu said, "Nothing strange. You don't look 20 years old now. You can't judge a ship girl by her age. If you humans are like this, then I should be just a little girl now. I'm asking you why you are like this." Shikong turned his head to look at Sugu and said, "Admiral, the purpose of bringing me out is not to let me grow up." Growth, from a game perspective, can also be said to be transformation. Sugu has seen many renovations, like Bismarck's and Bizai's. The renovation will become mature. What's more, like the Z-series destroyers, they can transform from a little girl into an adult after modification. Let's not talk about the transformation in the game, let's talk about the most common growth in this world. Sugu has seen many such growths, such as Firefly, who grew up to be an intellectual beauty in a port city. Later, when he became an admiral, he visited the surrounding garrison and saw a lot of destroyers and light cruisers that had also become mature. But no matter what, she has not grown up at all, but has become a younger ship girl. Sugu said, "How could you have grown up like you?" Akage tilted her head cutely, her long black hair flowing down from one side. After a simple straightening, although there were still a few strands of hair messy, more of the long hair still hung down like silk. With such long hair, no Photoshop is needed to endorse a shampoo advertisement. She smiled. She was naked and her long black hair was scattered around her shoulders and chest. She was very charming. Growing up, we ship girls can't just be called ship girls. In fact, they are also the incarnation of battleships. For example, it is a modern modification of a battleship. After modification, will it become more shabby, or will it become more beautiful or newer? If when battleships do this, ship girls will also become younger. When Akage said this, Sugu felt that it made sense. He didn't know where to complain. However, rather than becoming young and beautiful, you are becoming childish. Now, Admiral, let me show you this. Akage said this, and Sugu only noticed at this moment that Akage's voice was much more immature. Sugu looked at Akage's appearance. He had already adapted to Akage's dignified classical lady image. Although the most intimate things have been done, but now seeing that the other person has a new look, I really don't know how to express my feelings. It's not that Akage is not beautiful now, Akage is also very beautiful now, but it always feels wrong. In short, this transformation is really a bit messy. Sugu felt helpless, and Shikung said, Admiral, look at my head carefully. Akage said, and suddenly 2 ears appeared on her head, not furry ears. Those ears were like Xiaozai's battleship deck ears. They were not real ears at all, they were just ship uniforms. Nowadays, there are many ship girls in the Tutelary residence who have ship-mounted ears. Not to mention Xiaozai, there are also 4 cat-eared sisters. However, Akage's ears are much longer and more pointed than theirs, so they are clearly fox ears. Of course, it's hard to tell if it's fox ears. Mainly because of the smile on Akage's face, paired with a face that was much more charming than before. As Saratoga always says Vixen, Vixen Akage. This is the Vixen Akage, and those ears are fox ears. Admiral, Akage has grown as you wished. Sugu was speechless, and Akage continued, Admiral, did you like the former Akage? It's not that I liked the old Akage. Could it be that the Admiral wants to deny his credit? It's not that I don't admit it. No matter what happens, Akage will always like the Admiral. As Akage said this, all his charming expressions disappeared, revealing a gentle smile, and his whole person became dignified, probably mainly because the fox ear-like ship uniform disappeared from the top of his head. Of course, Akage is not wearing clothes now, so it is actually difficult to relate to the word modesty. A pot of wine, a cup of tea. A love, a lifetime of wishes. No matter the changes in the world, no matter the vicissitudes of life, I will always be by your side, without any regrets. Akage stood up. Except that he was younger, his dignified temperament was still the same as before. Sugu said, I feel a little more familiar. People have been afraid of the darkness from the beginning. Because of this, they have all kinds of behaviors to dispel the darkness. And as for me, as long as you are by my side, I will never bow to this boundless darkness. You are my lighthouse. Akage stretched out his hand and said again, no matter what, I ask the Admiral to accompany me on the road ahead. Sugu caught Shishin's hand and said, of course. Shikung blinked, took his palm out of Sugu's hand, and then stretched out his hands again. Sugu felt Akage's arms around his neck, and felt Akage's tongue licking the tip of his nose. Admiral, the current Akage is the new Akage. I have said before that I will feed you, Admiral, but now I am hungry. Sugu bared his teeth and pressed Shikung onto the bed. Akage, you are such a vixen. But being younger like this is actually quite good and refreshing. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 408. When she got up in the morning, she hadn't dressed up yet. Guam sat cross-legged on the seat with the electronic keyboard on her legs. Checking her instrument every day was a must. She looked at Sugu and Akage, and it took a while to react. Then she tilted her head and said, Uh, ah, Admiral, when did you bring the little girl in? You must be perverted. Sugu said, look carefully, why am I abnormal? That's Sheik Hung. Akage. In fact, she could already tell that the girl wearing a Miko costume with orange and red as the main colors was Akage. After all, to a certain extent, clothing is also an important part of judging a person's identity. The naked Akage makes it difficult to tell, but the Akage wearing his usual clothes only makes people slightly suspicious. Guam was originally wiping the keys of the electronic keyboard, but now he stopped and said, why did Akage become like this? You ask me, how do I know? Sugu himself was shocked at first. The girl in his arms, who was originally dignified and mature, turned into an immature girl after one night. Being able to avoid shouting when I got up means that I have been here for such a long time because I have seen too many strange things. By now, I am no longer surprised by such accidents and I am very stable. Akage said, it just grew up a little bit. Although Akage looked like a vixen in front of Sugu, whether it was his charming eyes or seductive smile, he was able to seduce people's hearts all the time. But in front of outsiders, Akage still maintained his dignified appearance, even though his face was much more immature. You are many years younger. Now you look like Saratoga's age, well, you still look older than Saratoga. Guam looked at Akage's appearance, how the image of a mature and dignified ancient lady turned into that of an immature girl. She stood up from her seat, then walked to Akage, looking up and down, from her hair to her appearance to her figure. She stretched out her hand to lift up Akage's long black hair, and it still felt as silky as before. There is no doubt that his appearance is much more youthful, and his body is also much slender. She continued to reach out her hand and wanted to tap Akage's chest, but seeing Akage's dignified appearance, she couldn't do this action anyway. She carefully recalled what Akage looked like before, and then compared it with what he looks like now, and said for a long time, it's different from the original temperament. It's hard to say whether it's good or bad. Because Sugu had a battle with Akage, he got up later than before. But Guam and Richelieu were up early, and Richelieu was now with them. Richelieu sat by the window, his long blonde hair tucked behind his ears, with a book on his lap. She turned her head and looked at Akage. She didn't talk as much as Guam. She just looked at Akage, but she didn't know how many waves were in her heart. Guam said, Admiral, is your theory true? Otherwise, why would Akage grow? How could my theory be wrong? Although he was unsure, it didn't stop Sugu from showing look, I'm the best expression in front of Guam. Who knew that when he left Xiangta Island a few days ago, he was laughed at by Guam for a long time. Guam said, Admiral, what theory did you have at that time? Practice, strong memory. Regarding Akage's transformation, Sugu and Akage hugged each other on the bed, and then thought about it and made guesses when they checked their bodies. The level requirements for ship girl transformation are definitely required, and Akage is satisfied with this. In addition, many cores are probably needed, and Sugu always believed that the cores were still those strong memories of the past. The hatred originally brought by the battleship actually affects the mind of a ship girl. If they fought side by side when they were battleships, like Hornet and Northampton, then it would be easier for them to become friends as ship girls. If they are originally enemies, like Bismarck and the Prince of Wales, who have conflicts, even if they don't do anything to stumble each other, you will definitely feel unhappy with me, and I will feel unhappy with you. Even though Akage said that no matter what kind of enemy he was, he had no fear. Even though he said he didn't care, but he defeated the Deep Sea Enterprise, he probably felt in his heart that he had made a breakthrough and defeated destiny. If you defeat destiny, then you have obtained the battleship core. To a certain extent, even in this attack, the enemy is not the 3 York City level sisters in the deep sea. But because of Guam, Akage thought they were the 3 York City level sisters in the deep sea, and he also felt that he had defeated fate. After all, the ship girl is quite idealistic. As long as she feels good about it, she doesn't necessarily need to be a specific enemy. Speaking of resources, from a game perspective, the growth of Akage will probably require a lot of resources. Sugu obviously didn't have the resources, so it couldn't possibly be the resources he was given when he was pushed. But from another perspective, there are vast resources hidden in the sea, and ship girl transformation does not require the resources to be around, it only needs to be nearby. Just as the ship girl can wake up on the sea, it is also because the sea has sunk countless resources. Of course, this was Sugu's idea, but he still had no idea until now. Guam, so according to your statement, is Richelieu going to defeat the deep sea hood? Sitting next to him, Richelieu was thinking. She originally had no hope of growing up, but just wanted to accompany her admiral out. Now seeing Akage, a flame of hope ignites in my heart. In the garrison, everyone used to have the same fighting ability, but seeing everyone grow up, he had not grown up even once. Princeton grew up, he was not around, he didn't feel anything, he was just a little surprised. At this time, Akage was growing up around him, and his heart couldn't help but become active. He couldn't compare to Bismarck, he couldn't counterattack, he couldn't compare to the Prince of Wales. Although he didn't say it, he felt unwilling in his heart. Why should he be weak? Richelieu walked up to Akage and asked, "Akage, did you do anything special before you grew up?" "There's nothing special. You all should know what happened. I didn't have a dream at night like the Admiral said, I just felt. I don't know if those deep-sea ship girls are the 3 deep-sea York City-class sisters, but everyone said so, so I believed them. After defeating those deep-sea ship girls in this way, I still felt a little bit like I had broken my fate. But it's not just because of this. In the past, I felt like I couldn't see the future. The Admiral was around, but there was no ring. Later, I got the ring and had the most intimate relationship with my Admiral, and then I felt like there was nothing to worry about in the future. For the future, there is no uneasiness, no fear, only expectation. It's just that although he has grown up, Akage himself doesn't say why he came. After all, some things can only be understood but not expressed." After Akage finished speaking, Richelieu frowned. Then Guam said from the side, "Akage defeated Abyssal Ship Girl, but there are so many people in the tutelage, and they don't seem to have experienced anything too strange, but they have grown up." Guam arrived at the tutelary mansion very early, and she experienced many things that led to the growth of the tutelary mansion. Lexington grew, its reputation grew, it seemed to grow casually, which was something she couldn't understand. Sugu knew that it was a gameplay issue. If growing up in the game was so troublesome, there would probably be many people who would give up. Games and reality cannot be generalized. Sugu thought for a while and said, "Practice, and your heart will definitely be needed." As for what kind of heart it is. For example, Bizai, it was because she dreamed that her sister Bismarck sank in her dream, then he grew up. For example, Lexington wanted the garrison to become stronger, and then he grew up. He fought back because he wanted to follow in his sister's footsteps, and then he grew up. The heart that wanted to become stronger, the heart that got rid of the shackles. Several people have put forward quite a few conjectures, but until now, no one knows what the correct answer is, but Sugu feels that his original conjecture should be the closest answer. Growing up casually like this feels a bit duller. Compared with growing up like this, it is more reliable to defeat the worst enemies, inner demons, and karma after a big battle. Guam boring shook his hands. Leg. Guam, I really shouldn't tell you so many stories about inner demons and karma. Guam said, Akage didn't even explode, but I still think it should be like this. Akage was knocked to the ground by the enemy. Seeing that he was exhausted, he thought that he couldn't go on like this and had to fight. The Admiral was still waiting for me to go back on the cruise ship. I wanted to fight, and then suddenly transform and become super powerful. Clang, clang, clang. You actually have dubbing. Sugu thought to herself, if Shi Kung had such good equipment and she was beaten badly, then how powerful the enemy must be. Besides, the ability to explode is a skill that only the protagonist has. Well, I should be considered the protagonist since I have traveled through time. But Sugu didn't want to be in danger of needing to explode. Compared to those enthusiastic protagonists, he still wants to be the one who calculates everything. Sugu said, actually, Akage gave people a youthful feel very early on, but today he is particularly old. Didn't you say before that when you came back from the attack, you felt that Akage's temperament had changed? The temperament has changed, but the appearance has not changed. And after defeating such a deep-sea ship girl, no matter who it is, the temperament will change. I think that someone who grows up like Akage should be more special. Change, how do you want to change? Holy light falls from the sky. As Sugu spoke, he thought of the transformation of a beautiful girl, and then thought of Balala, the little magic fairy, and then his mind was filled with words similar to magical girls and dancing goddesses. Guam smiled, thinking about it, it was impossible. She said, but compared to the Admiral's theory, I think it is more likely to be pushed and then grow. Look, Akage will sleep with you these days. Before. You didn't sleep together when you were in the governor's mansion. Guam grinned, Akage smiled, and Richelieu pursed his lips. When Guam said this, Sugu certainly knew it was a joke. If he could grow up if he pushed it, then how could it be possible in this world like it is now, with few transformed ship girls? However, Sugu thought about this theory with evil heart. There are many ship girls who have not been transformed after they have reached the full level. Just like Richelieu next to her, she is still at full level without any transformation. Thinking about the people we are about to find soon, whether they are in South Dakota, Washington, or North Carolina, they are all at full level. Far and near, there is Fuzu. Although he is not at full level, his level is definitely enough for transformation. Besides, there are many people like Xianghe, Ziwehe, Shi, and Dumpling. Thinking about it in such an evil way, on the condition of helping to transform, and then confidently getting the ring and pushing it, it's so exciting. Of course, the idea is just an idea, and even at this time, I cannot agree with Guam's opinion. Sugu didn't say anything. He wasn't going to get entangled with Guam, otherwise it would be endless. Anyway, if Akage returns to the town hall like this, everyone who will be there will probably be frightened. Sugu turned to look at Akage and said, speaking of this, I thought of Chi Berlin. Seeing you like this, Akage, her jaw probably dropped. It used to be okay to call you Senior Akage, but now you are like this. I think calling you Akage-senpai is really a bit stressful. Ship girls don't pay much attention to their seniority in battleships. Although they do pay attention to it, for example, Andrea was a battleship, but no one regarded her as a senior at that time. Royal Oak is also an old ship, and no one regards her as a senior. The qualifications of the battleships need to be talked about a little bit, the abilities of the generals themselves need to be talked about a little, and the order before and after arriving at the garrison must be talked about a little bit. Nothing can be generalized. Akage said, instead of worrying about me, Admiral, why not worry about yourself? Zeppelin will probably ask you to report. When the ship girl grows up, especially when she grows up like Akage, Zeppelin will probably ask Sugu to write a report. After all, this is a big deal for the ship girl. Although Zeppelin stayed in the garrison, he actually still attached great importance to the academy and education. Sugu thought that when he first built York City, the college had the resources of a huge warehouse, which was scary. If you can find out what happened to the ship girl's growth, then if you submit this report, you will definitely receive considerable attention. Resources, want. Growth is actually a strange thing for ship girls, which is understandable. Human geniuses don't know why they are so talented, and they don't know why they have photographic memory. Moreover, this report is really useful. The ship girl headquarters is definitely not stingy with rewards. Sugu heard from the company that whether you want an admiral or not is one thing, but whether our ship girl headquarters gives it to you or not is one thing. If you do your best, you must also be dedicated. As long as you can contribute, we will never be harsh. However, writing a report is not that easy, and Sugu has no idea. Sugu shook his head thinking about these things. At this time, Richelieu suddenly said, "By the way, Akagi, what does your ship suit look like, and what improvements have been made to its parameters?" Richelieu could feel the changes in Akagi, not just in appearance. And she also knows that the parameters of the ship's equipment will change greatly after the ship girls in the garrison grow up, and the equipment will also be updated. So what changes will happen to Akagi? That's right, what are the parameters of your ship's equipment? Otherwise, it's just a change in appearance, which is meaningless. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 409. Akagi unfolded his ship uniform, and the deck-style fox ears suddenly appeared on his head, and then the flight deck with red and black as the main color appeared behind him. A mechanical arm extends from the waist, attached to the armor, and a small machine gun. Finally, she raised her arms, and light appeared in her palms, then extended to both sides and turned into a large bow. Akagi held a bow and arrow, her ship outfit now completely different from the original one. What a big change! Not to mention Guam, even Richelieu was also very curious about Akagi's ship equipment. She is different from Guam. To a certain extent, Guam is used to being weak, but Richelieu still wants to enter a higher level and have higher power, otherwise he will always feel like Bismarck or the Prince of Wales, etc. A head shorter in front of a person. Richelieu asked, "Akagi, has your firepower changed? As well as armor, durability, and speed?" If it's just a change in appearance, it doesn't mean much. The parameters of the ship's equipment are the most important thing. Akagi put away his big bow and said with a smile, "The firepower is still the same as before, probably about 40. The firepower of our aircraft carrier, to a greater extent, represents the number of carrier-based aircraft that can be controlled at the same time. I can control it at the same time. The carrier-based aircraft are still the same as before, but the number of carrier-based aircraft carried has increased. In addition, the armor and durability have been slightly improved, but the speed has not changed. Compared with metaphysical numbers like luck or dodge, it is difficult to quantify here. Armor and durability are easier to quantify. Akagi can feel the power in his body, and there is no problem in quantifying it, but the specific improvement is still difficult to express clearly for a while. So how many parameters did you have in the past? Akagi shook her head, she didn't like remembering these things at all. Sugu shrugged. He didn't know. After all, it was different from games. Everything in games could be quantified, but it was difficult here. Even if it is quantified, there is still a bias. The battle here is different from the game where you come and go. There are too many factors that need to be affected to win here. Data is important, but at most it is like a diploma. It can be used as a stepping stone, but if you believe in this value, you will be considered a fool. Let's not talk about reality. Even in the game, she is like a fantasy little princess with super high dodge, but among all the destroyers, she is the most capable of falling. Even though she can fall, we still have to let her out. We are the cutest little princess. In addition, even if it was the same battle, Sugu felt at the beginning that his reputation as the head mate had a higher IQ than everyone else. However, people like Bismarck like to go out and throw things around and return scrap metal. Anyway, the impact of the aircraft carrier's course is relatively small. The ship's armor looks much more powerful. The armor should be upgraded by at least 5 points. Sugu had no way to talk to him due to the change in the ship's uniform. On the contrary, it was easier for Richelieu and Guam to ask. After all, they were ship girls. Seeing you like this, Akagi, I also want to reform. Richelieu and Guam asked questions for a while, and Akagi answered them one by one. Finally, Guam asked, I heard that everyone in the garrison, like Bismarck, if they grow up like this, their equipment will be improved. How about you, Akagi? The equipment of the ship girl is not so much equipment. In fact, unlike ordinary guns or cannonballs, which can be held in the hand and waved around, the equipment of the ship girl is more like a kind of power. This kind of power resides in a ship girl's ship suit. When you have this kind of power, you will naturally become more powerful. Just like the Type 91 armor-piercing bullet, once it is equipped on the body, it cannot be said that the ammunition has been replaced, but the strength attribute has been improved. Each ship girl can match various equipment at will, but each ship girl's ship outfit is different. If it is really like a real weapon, it is said that the ship equipment is different. Of course, the equipment removed from your body cannot be equipped on someone else's body. However, equipment is like a kind of power. This kind of power can be stripped off and have its own form. This is a concrete expression. But this power will take different forms when placed on different people. Bismarck's ship equipment is heavy and bulky, so the turret installed on her ship equipment will appear larger. The counterattack ship is equipped with a big gun. If the turret is equipped on her body, the turret will fit perfectly on her big gun. If Akagi's arrows are given to the attackers, they become cloth planes, and if they are given to the Mongolian Navy, they become paper airplanes. Well, only the Star Destroyer Mongol Navy can fly invincible paper planes. Of course, although it will fit on different people's ship equipment, the appearance will still change slightly. If you are equipped with a triple cannon, there will never be a double cannon on the ship. Equipment is a kind of power, not an actual weapon. Just like many ship girls, even if their equipment is removed, they can still fire, but their strength is greatly reduced. For example, the American Bofors 40mm anti-aircraft cannon on Guam has been removed and replaced with a cannon. This does not mean that it can no longer defend itself against air. It just means that its artillery fire capability has been improved and its air defense capability has been reduced. The only difference is the carrier-based aircraft. The carrier-based aircraft is more like a foreign object. If the carrier-based aircraft is dismantled, a ship girl will not be able to fly the carrier-based aircraft again. All in all, ship-mounted weapons are not like ordinary weapons, a gun is just a gun. Ship-mounted weapons are actually a kind of power, and the same is true for the fact that equipment can be broken down into resources. You can build ship girls, and you can also build equipment. In the game, building equipment is building equipment. Here, it is the ship girl who awakens those powers from those steels. Of course, for today's people, we don't even have enough ship girls in the garrison. You actually want to build equipment, and awakening power will also fail. Since everything will fail, it is not as good as building a ship girl. Building a ship girl involves more than just a ship girl. A ship girl often carries many pieces of equipment. Just like in the early stages of the game, few people will spend resources on building equipment. You asked about the equipment. Akagi stretched out her hand, and a small carrier-based aircraft appeared in her palm. A ship girl can have a lot of equipment and a lot of power at the same time, but there are only so many equipments that can be effective at the same time. For example, there are only 4 slots in the game that can be equipped with replacement equipment. Here, a ship girl can only master 4 powers at the same time, and some ship girls can use even fewer powers at the same time. Even if equipment is considered a kind of power, a ship girl cannot use it without restrictions. Otherwise, if a ship girl is equipped with so much equipment, even the Mongolian Navy Star Destroyer will be defeated. However, the Mongolian Navy Star Destroyer is great. Lord Sukbader is an invincible being. Akage can have a lot of equipment at the same time. At this time, she showed one of them and said, 97 Ship Attack, 80th Chapter, and Gale, I obtained these two types of equipment. So what are the parameters of these ships? I know Gale, but what is the 97th Ship Attack, 80th? A weak ship girl cannot judge the strength of the equipment, but someone like Akage who has seen too much equipment can easily judge the parameters. Akage said, the 97th Ship Attack, number 80, the bombing value is considered 7 points, but it has an armor-piercing effect. Sugu's eyes lit up. Hearing this, he felt good. He said, is it the carrier-based version of the Type 91 armor-piercing projectile? Sugu was excited, but Akage poured cold water on it and said, it's not as good as the bomber B-25 and the A-2. The B-25 and A-2 are super powerful bombers. If your equipment is more powerful than these, then Akage, you should be happy that you are going to the breeding farm. Sugu said, it's better than the bomber BTD-1 destroyer. Yeah, my equipment is much better than Lexington's. You still want to compare? It turns out that Lexington felt that Akage was no longer a threat, until he gave Akage the ring, and then Lexington became wary. Now that I have pushed them to Akage, they will start to compare again when they return to the garrison. However, in the garrison, Lexington had too many helpers, but Akage's helpers, we might as well say they were dragging oil bottles, just destroyers Arashi. Sugu added, speaking of Rabbit's equipment at that time, where did it go? Guam shook her head, she didn't know either. Why don't you give it away? It can't be torn down. She is not that grand. Even if it is given away, why not give it to Bumblebee? She is so miserable, but that's right, why give it to Bumblebee? It's understandable if you borrow it, but it's not easy to give it away. The ship girl takes her equipment very seriously. Even if Sugu can mobilize the equipment, to the ship girl, it is my equipment and it is my equipment. For example, it is the bomber B-25. In order to get back its equipment B-25, the Hornet went through a lot of hardships. For example, Helena, even though she got the Kirov cannon, she didn't think it was her own equipment. She thought it was Kirov's equipment. Sugu thought of Kirov and didn't know what happened to Kirov. He had stolen someone else's equipment and sent him into the cold palace, and Kirov obviously didn't like Helena as much. Imagining Kirov standing in front of me and saying coldly, "Comrade, let's build socialism together," I felt a little scared just thinking about it. Sugu said, "Forget it, let's go back and ask Rabbit later." 97th Ship Attack, Part 80, after you return the bomber, you can carry it yourself. Then Gale, you probably won't be able to use it. You already have Seafang. Then Gale can give it to York City or Da Wasps, but it's not that easy to give them, he. Guam said, "Admiral, you can hardly hide the malice on your face. You seem like the kind of evil boss who wants unspoken female subordinates. Well, you are the evil admiral to begin with." Richelieu cupped his cheeks and imagined what he would become if he grew up. "I am already mature enough, can I be young? It is good to be young. There is also equipment, it can't be explosive guns again. It seems that the Richelieu battleship in the old world has been modified to strengthen its air defense, so what kind of equipment should it be? As Lexington grows up, she is better at commanding carrier-based aircraft. What about you, Akage?" Guam was a little excited and continued, "Akage, let's practice, a simple drill. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 410. Guam looked at Akage with his ship uniform fully deployed and said, "Akage, let's practice." Akage has never had any objections to exercises. He has done exercises with Lexington or Saratoga before, and they are considered equally matched opponents. But Guam is not looking down upon. Even if it only carries a -2 and B2 -5, it will be difficult for Guam to survive the opening in front of itself. Akage has never been good at tact, so she said, "Drill, you will definitely not be able to beat me. Try it. It's not a real fight. You try to let the carrier-based aircraft circle around me. I just need to take a look to know whether the level of your carrier-based aircraft has improved." Oh well. Since Guam insists, Akage doesn't mind giving it a try. In fact, she also wants to understand her own abilities so that she can maintain an attitude in the future competition with Lexington. It's best to overpower the opponent. Of course, the secretary ship still doesn't want to get involved, as he doesn't have the talent in that area. As long as it is not a big deal, Sugu will never refuse the request of his ship girl and is willing to help. Seeing the two people wanting to practice, he said, "Do you need to go into the water? If you need to go into the water, then we must communicate with Wei Lian one time." Guam waved his hand and said, "No need, we can just try it casually." Finding a relatively sparsely populated area, Akage and Guam conducted an exercise. Akage put up a bow and shot arrows, and she released carrier-based aircraft in the sky. The number released was not large. The arrows flew in the air and transformed into carrier-based aircraft. There was only one carrier-based aircraft of each kind. Then Guam tried to track those carrier-based aircraft. It was just a very simple and casual exercise. The carrier-based aircraft circled Guam. Guam looked at those carrier-based aircraft and gestured with his fingers, thinking about how many he could shoot down. After all, this is on a cruise ship. The cruise ship is still sailing and the sailing speed is not slow. Many slow-speed ships may not be able to keep up with the sailing speed of the cruise ship. Even if we help the cruise ship, we cannot ask the cruise ship to stop and let everyone practice before sailing. The conditions are limited. There is no venue and no space. The exercise can only be like this. Sugu and Richelieu stood together, looking at the carrier-based aircraft hovering in the sky. This exercise didn't last long and ended quickly. It was just a test of Akage's current level. Although they fought several times, the final result, of course, ended in Guam's defeat. Seeing Guam standing disappointedly in the corridor, Sugu turned his head and looked at Richelieu, a tall and blond man beside him, and asked, "Richelieu, do you want to try it?" After Richelieu watched the whole battle, she shook her head and said, "No need." She knew very well that even though Guam was inferior to her in terms of combat effectiveness, in terms of air defense capability, she was much better than her. Obviously Guam has failed, so there is no need for him to be unhappy. Richelieu was not interested. Guam had a thorough understanding of Akage's carrier-based aircraft control capabilities, and he was also not interested. No one was interested in seeking abuse. The exercise was over, less than half an hour in total, and then everyone went to the restaurant. In the restaurant, Guam held a sandwich and said, "No, no, it's a headache to watch Akage operate a carrier-based aircraft like this." Sugu said, "It must be a headache. Sheik Hung is very strong and has grown again now." Guam said, "It's different from ordinary headaches. How should I put it, the level of control of the carrier-based aircraft is dazzling. If Akage controls the carrier-based aircraft and dances in front of me, it will not only miss her carrier-based aircraft, I feel that any carrier-based aircraft I see will probably have a shadow. Akage's level has reached its limit, which means that it is basically difficult for Akage to improve his ability to control carrier-based aircraft. But if there are skills in the game, then Akage must have skills." After hearing Guam's words, Sugu thought about it. Akaga's dazzling technology through carrier-based aircraft made it impossible for people to defend themselves well. So whether it increases its own air control capability or reduces the opponent's air defense capability, it probably reduces the opponent's air defense capability. Guam is just a battle cruiser and does not need air control. Akaga was holding the milk. She could never say anything like, "Yes, I'm strong, please praise me more." She just smiled modestly. Then Guam put the sandwich into his mouth, pierced the vegetable salad with his fork, summed up the results of these exercises, and organized his words. In the end, she shook her head again and said, "It feels like a fly, like a mosquito, troublesome. It was here, but suddenly appeared behind. What would be better is if Akaga's plan could be discovered in advance. I was prepared in my heart. Even if Akaga's carrier-based aircraft has more tricks, it will still be easier to fight. If it is attacked by a sneak attack, it will be much more difficult. During the first exercise, I didn't pay attention. It almost failed miserably. I didn't even notice that many carrier-based aircraft were raiding from behind. By the second exercise, I discovered Akaga's idea. There was nothing the carrier-based aircraft could do. It has caused me too much trouble. In short, I think if the enemy can be traced to Akagi in advance, then the matter will be simple. If the enemy cannot be traced to Akagi in advance, then it will be difficult. This can be regarded as a surprise attack." When Guam said this, Sugu couldn't judge Akaga's skills for a while. After thinking about it for a while, I reluctantly concluded that if converted into energy saving in the game, this can be regarded as a skill to detect the enemy in advance, and then suppress the enemy in the air. There is no way to digitize these things. You have to explore slowly, which is really troublesome. Guam finally said, "I won't belittle myself. In short, even if Akaga launches a surprise attack now, she still can't use it well. It's just a prototype." Akaga said, "I'm just trying this idea out, and I can practice it more in the future. Skill replacement in the game requires re-strengthening, but not here." Sugu heard that her sister-in-law Saratoga had said before that if she wanted to replace the pioneer of aviation tactics with Robin's skills, she just needed to practice more, and more practice would make perfect. Since skill replacement does not require strengthening, then skill strengthening also only requires more practice. Even if it doesn't work, it should only require resources at most. Sugu nodded and said, "Akage, then you practice more and then practice with Guam and let her say this about you and say you are not good." Akage and Sugu were sitting on one side. She leaned into Sugu's ear and whispered softly, "Guam just said that this move is called surprise attack. I like this name very much. Speaking of Admiral, I secretly attack you at night. This should be considered a surprise attack practice, then you will have to practice more in the future." Sugu looked at Akagi and thought to himself, "You are such a vixen, you are now even more powerful than Saratoga. Everyone can see Saratoga's enthusiasm, but you, Akagi Humiko's methods, can't be seen at all until the very end, and I don't know what you want to do. What is this? In history, the Akagi quietly attacked Pearl Harbor, and you just took advantage of the opportunity to make a surprise attack. Now your skill is surprise attack, which seems very appropriate. Thinking about it again, I think I should have eaten Akagi first this time." Akagi and Sugu whispered, and Guam knocked on the table beside him and said, "You can't talk behind our backs. We are all good sisters, and you are still the Admiral. What are you talking about?" "Nothing," said. Akagi looked serious and dignified, and no one except Sugu could have imagined what she had just said. Akagi said, "I told the Admiral that I hope everyone in the town can grow." Combined with Akagi's words and her growth experience, these words made Sugu feel a little excited. Guam didn't know why, and gave the two people a strange look, and then she said, "Saratoga is like her sister Lexington, she is very good at commanding everyone. But she doesn't command, she is very powerful on her own, She just needs everyone's cooperation. There will be a lot of her in Saratoga, so Akage, is there anything you are better at doing? There are only fighters and bombers around now. If there are more carrier-based aircraft, such as torpedo planes and reconnaissance planes, we can try again and see if it will be more convenient. Then there's nothing we can do. Let's wait until later. Sugu said, when we return to the garrison, Rabbit will have a torpedo machine. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai Rong Yan. Chapter 411. Being bored, Sugu decided to do something, which was more of a prank than a thing. Akage was wearing a Guam skirt, which seemed a bit too wide, with baggy waist, shoulders, and cuffs. The skirt is loose, but it fits just right on the chest. Rather than just fitting, it can be said to be a little tight. Anyway, this is what Guam has always been annoyed about. She has smooth black hair, a lace hairpin on her head, and her delicate collarbones and shoulders are slightly exposed at the collar. Akage is wearing a Lolita-style long skirt with layers of ruffles and white sandals. Sugu can basically confirm that even Kaga or Zeppelin, who are very familiar with Akage, will probably not recognize him here. The girl in front of him is Akage. After all, even he has a hard time equating the current Akage with the original Akage, and he is now the most familiar with Akage among everyone. Hey, Akage, just dress like this. Then you will sit on the top deck. When Shinkai and I appear, you will slightly reveal your identity as a ship girl. For example, take out your big bow or let the carrier-based aircraft fly into the palm of your hand. Don't use a -2 or B-25, just use your gale. Let the gale circle in the sky and then land in the palm of your hand. Guam saw her clothes being put on by Akage, and she asked, Admiral, what exactly do you want to do? Sugu said matter-of-factly, as an admiral, if you don't show off your boat, what's the difference between it and salted fish? No, this is not showing off your boat, this is a show of skills. Akage was being manipulated by Sugu like a puppet or a model. He felt uncomfortable regardless of whether he was wearing a long skirt or white sandals. Not sure, Guam said again, what is going on? I don't plan to do anything, I just want Akage to be like this. Sugu said a lot, Akage showed a helpless smile, and Guam said excitedly, I want to play too. Sugu waved his hand and said, go, Guam, you are a melon eater. Shinkai routinely likes to sit on the deck and look into the distance. He has been impatient for many days, looking forward to seeing the mainland. Sugu wanted to find Shinkai, either in his room or on the top deck. The most suitable place for entertainment on the cruise ship is the casino on the bottom floor, but neither of them likes to go there. Sugu found Shinkai, and then heard Shinkai complaining and said, no, we can't win Auckland at all. She is too difficult to deal with. Let me practice boxing with her. Yesterday, I had a pair of panda eyes. Auckland was difficult to deal with. Sugu had heard about it and said, you can fish out of a big well. I'll be honest with you, I actually have no love for Oi. It's not that she's not cute, she's not my type anyway. Sugu leaned on the railing of the deck, feeling the sea breeze blowing by. He said, have you ever thought about finding an ordinary girlfriend? I remember that there are always many beauties in bikinis in the swimming pool of the cruise ship. Shinkai said, you already have a ship girl, why are you looking for an ordinary person to be your girlfriend? You are giving up the good and chasing the weak. Sugu said, look at that blonde beauty over there, let me tell you, the dark skin is amazing. What kind of black skin? It's just wheat color. Sugu said, speaking of which, the one over there is pretty good, no worse than the ship girl. If everyone in the governor's mansion saw Sugu's smile, they would definitely guess that he wanted to do something to deceive the little girl. However, Shinkai wasn't familiar with it, or he didn't pay attention to Sugu's smile at all. Chin Kai followed Sugu's gaze and saw a black-haired beauty sitting under a parasol, wearing a Lolita and cartoon-style dress. A wide-brimmed hat was placed on the table. There was ice juice in front of her, and she held her chin in one hand. With the straw in her mouth, she looked like a young lady. If the black-haired beauty had put on a witch costume or a kimono, Chin Kai would probably think she looked familiar, but now she is wearing a long dress, and he just thinks she is a beautiful girl somewhere. Chin Kai didn't recognize it, but Sugu did. It was Shik Hung. Beautiful is very beautiful. Why is she looking at the sky all the time? Sugu pretended to be surprised and said, "What's in the sky, that black spot, is it a seagull or an albatross?" "That's a carrier-based aircraft, right? Which ship girl is flying a carrier-based aircraft here?" "I don't know." "What kind of carrier-based aircraft do you think that is?" "It seems like a strong wind." The two people were talking and looked up at the carrier-based aircraft in the sky. Then they saw the carrier-based aircraft hovering in the sky, then swooping down, quickly rising when it approached the deck, and finally landing on the parasol. The palm of the black-haired beauty below finally turned into little stars and disappeared into the palm of her hand. Even if the carrier-based aircraft can be touched by ordinary people, only the ship girl can do this to make the carrier-based aircraft fly into the palm of the hand and then disappear. Sugu said, "She is the ship girl, why haven't I seen it before? Are there any other admirals besides us on the cruise ship?" "It's not necessarily a ship girl with an admiral, she might just be a wandering ship girl." Sugu said, "Looking at her appearance, she should be a light aircraft carrier." "Carrier-based aircraft Gale, not everyone can carry such equipment casually. Her chest is so majestic, she should be an aircraft carrier. Even if it is not an aircraft carrier, her chest is so majestic, no matter what, it is enough." Sugu looked at Chin Kai, tilted his head slightly and said, "Salvage the boat. If an admiral doesn't fish boats, then why should he be an admiral? He might as well go home and plant sweet potatoes. Everyone has a dream." Even though he failed in Auckland, Chin Kai was eager to try, but suddenly hesitantly said, "Isn't this good? Besides, how can we separate the two of us? Besides, maybe there is an admiral ship girl, if we go up rashly, we will be beaten. Whether you want to go or not, I will go if you don't. Go if you go. If you don't ask, how do you know if someone has an admiral? If you miss it, you won't have a chance. Look at this, it's really an aircraft carrier. I want it. So much nonsense. Don't say I won't give you a chance. I just want to tell you that if I go, you won't have a chance." Sugu continued, "Do you know where all the ship girls in my town came from? How can I still build so many ship girls at my age? Where do I get so many resources? I am not a super origami. Mention. Let me tell you, my ship girls are all salvaged. Everyone has their own talents, some people have a photographic memory, some people are eloquent, and what I am best at is 100% salvage. You know, I fished out Cushing right here, and I didn't even spend half a day on it." Chin Kai said, "It's 100% sure that the boat will be saved, you can brag." As he said this, he then thought of Cushing's incident, which really happened. In addition, he knew very well that Sugu was an admiral who had just graduated. He had met him in the academy before and was going to practice at that time. Now there are rumors that the other party has something to do with the ship girl headquarters. Only the ship girl headquarters has such a powerful ship girl. Combined with the 100% ship fishing skills, he said, only in this way can his garrison be so powerful. Thinking this way, even he had some doubts about the authenticity of the matter. "Then why don't you fish for Oakland and Big Well?" "I'm not interested in them, but I am interested in this one." Chin Kai stretched out his hand to stop Sugu and said without hesitation, "Let me go first." Sugu showed a proud smile and looked over at Guam from a distance. He made a gesture toward Guam that everything would be fine. Shinkai left, but of course he came back soon, spreading his hands to express that there was no chance. I said a lot of words before she responded, and the response was very perfunctory, but she had a nice smile. If you want to bail out the boat, just go ahead and let me see how good you are. All right. Sugu shrugged his shoulders and then walked under the parasol. Then something like this happened under the parasol. He actually believed it. Admiral, you are so boring. It's interesting. He doesn't recognize you as Akagi at all. After all, you are so young. It's not young, it's young. We just say something to make it look like we're close. Well, I feel stupid for playing such a game with you. Intimacy, what do you think of kissing? No, it only takes one glance for others to tell that something is wrong. You are a ship girl, so you are not that frivolous. Only flirty with you. I know, but it's different now. Well, let me tell you a joke. Okay. Well, I can't think of a joke at the moment, so just pretend that I told a joke. How to pretend? Then cover your mouth so it looks like you're smiling. Am I right to cover it like this? Yes, it looks like she is smiling, a very ladylike smile. I suddenly thought of a good idea. Akagi, give me a sip of your juice. Can't finish the drink. You have reformed, but you still haven't forgotten to eat? Just take small sips. On the other side, in Shinkai's eyes, Sugu first went up to talk and said a few words, and then saw the black-haired ship girl smiling. I originally thought that just like myself, I would get some perfunctory approval at most. But then I saw Sugu sitting down at the table and starting to talk again. Then I saw the black-haired ship girl covering her mouth with her hands, as if she had heard something funny, and she was probably telling a joke. Then, I saw Sugu say something and actually took a sip of the black-haired ship girl's juice. Are you kidding? How could a ship girl let someone touch her drink? This was considered an indirect kiss. Is he an acquaintance of Sugu? It's impossible, he doesn't even know him. No, I also want 100% boat fishing skills. Sugu returned to the railing and said, I asked, she is an aircraft carrier. Before Sugu could speak, Shinkai bowed over there and said, teach me. How to teach this kind of thing? You need talent, and you have taught the apprentice to starve to death of the master. If you don't teach me, how do you know that I have no talent? Besides, I won't steal your ship girl. But there's no time, I'm leaving now. You left, where are you going? Of course I'm dating someone, we just started chatting. Hey, why are you like this? Sugu left Shinkai, returned to Shikhung, and then took Shikhung away. Walking around the corner and into the cabin, Sugu burst into laughter inside the cabin. Shikhung reached out and patted Sugu on the shoulder and said, you are evil, Admiral. Guam ran over and said, Shinkai's expression was distorted. He seemed to be swearing. My mouth is so stuffed with duck eggs. Maybe the worldview has collapsed. Really interesting. Sugu and Guam were talking about Shinkai's expressions, when a voice suddenly appeared. I heard Richelieu say that you are here, what is so funny? Sugu saw the person coming over, it was Xiang Feng, and he said, remember, you are not supposed to be on patrol today, why do you have time to come here? This area is barely considered a safe sea area, and there is no need for too many ship girls to patrol and search for enemies. I'm here to tell you today, prepare to pack your things. In just a few days, the cruise ship will dock. Also, where is Akagi? I'm looking for her. We're almost there, I almost forgot. After hearing such an important thing, the smile on Sugu's face disappeared, and then he said, Akagi, I'm by your side.